I'm a special one.
Decide I was right.
Hello and welcome back to OmniFoot TV. This is your Stormer speaking, and today's video is about Timo Werner. Now, I have an opinion on this particular player that I've actually held for the longest time, especially ever since he came to the club. I mean, everyone was excited when he joined, but I've actually thought the same way about him since, and it's still remained true to this day in my own regard. Now, I'm going to start my argument by looking at his stats last season, just to start by proving a point and providing some context. So, he scored 12 goals last season. Same number as Tammy Abraham, one above Olivier Giroud. I miss Giroud. And he managed to register the most number of assists out of any Chelsea player. That's like Mason had 8. Timo had 12. Chilwell had 7. I miss Chilwell, man. People still went on and on about how much of a player he was. I mean, seriously. He's not that bad. He wasn't that bad at the time. The only problem he has is, I'm not even going to say finishing, but I mean, what other word is there to use? He has bad luck. He has bad juju. Someone's used a voodoo doll to just mess the guy's life up. The boy looks cursed, for all I've seen. And yet, he still tries. The thing about Werner, and the reason I support him to the fullest extent, in opposition to an example like Alvaro Morata, is that he tries. Werner is this special kind of player, right? He's a kind of player who knows exactly what his job is. And mind you, he's not a striker, just for the sake of argument, because most people would probably assume that his numbers would imply that he is a striker. He can play in multiple positions up front, just to put that out there. He can mess up, but the best thing about him is his work rate. The boy works tirelessly. He moves well. He knows how to make intelligent runs in and out of the box. He can see gaps that a lot of other players don't, especially given the skill set that he has. The speed and the precision that he possesses makes him one of the most versatile players on any wing. And the thing that I love the most about him is his ability to choose constantly. And I mean constantly. Not to give up. He's a machine. If you listen to how he speaks at times, you'd assume that, okay, he probably gets pushed around a lot on the pitch. You know, he's not necessarily that imposing, threatening presence. No disrespect meant whatsoever. I mean, players come in all different, demeanors. Forget shapes and sizes. But his temperament is just different. And the best part about it is his hilariously diligent work rate. And he came out of last season with the most number of goal contributions of any Chelsea player. And yet we still slay him. I think that, again, I'll mention Morata. Because Morata was just soft. Like, in my humble opinion, Morata was the softest example of a player we had ever signed and expected a lot of. Because it wasn't obvious that he was trying. At all. He wasn't as hardworking as Torres, per se. Now, Torres is one of the prime examples I can give you to the kind of mentality that Werner actually possesses. Because both players are quite similar, in my humble opinion, in regards to their demeanor and in regards to their work rate to a certain extent. Albeit, with the differences in context in mind. But they both fit into the same box in that regard. And the most important thing about any player on any team is the mentality. He has carried a certain mentality with him onto the pitch each and every week. Whenever he's played, whenever he's had to start or come off the bench, he's been quiet. He doesn't complain, doesn't cause any drama. I'm looking at you, Romelu Lukaku. And he just does his thing. And here's a point I think all Chelsea fans should take note of. We have had players in the past who completely disregard the manager's instructions. And they've done well, although not for a long haul. Werner actually listens to Tuchel. And he works on improving himself. Day in and day out. We've not heard one thing related to an internal conflict between him and any other players, between him and the manager, of any sense. He's been committed and capable and consistent to whatever extent that he's allowed himself to be, which is still good. I mean, his numbers aren't bad. His performances could be better because of the obvious flair, the obvious weakness that we as a fan base keep focusing on as if it's the only thing that allows him to be the player that he is. It has become the only thing that we as Chelsea fans have built his identity around. His inability to finish in comparison as well, because he's not that bad of a finisher, but he does need work. He needs a lot of work. He's missed a ton of chances, but he still tries. Any other player would have packed his bags and left. Werner has literally been a highlight for journalists ever since the beginning of the season, ever since the summer. Everyone was talking about how he wanted to leave, how he's been linked to Juve, for example. He's been linked to all these different clubs. Even last week, people were talking about how he's been linked to other clubs. Social media has been ripe with news about his possible departure from the club. And you look at him now, and it's as if that hasn't fazed him at all. He's proved all of these people wrong. He keeps his head down, and he works. That's the kind of player I want at my club. Werner can be better. But for God's sake, is it so difficult for us to actually accept the level that he's at right now? Is it so difficult to accept that? Did it have to take the last couple of games to prove people wrong? Did it have to take those couple of performances to show the fans that there was so much more to his game? Albeit, I don't know if he actually thought about leaving or not, but currently, and Joe Cole said this, I think yesterday or the day before, I can't really remember when this came out, but he said that Werner has initially given hope for a Chelsea future, given himself hope for a future at the club. In my opinion, at least, that's always been there. It's an issue of having the fans back the player. Our fans in general always back our players. To be honest, especially during the Torres era, and I learned that lesson watching how the supporters have always just rallied behind our own. You know, we're very loyal fans. But at the same time, and I'm not saying any of this as though to indicate or to, for anyone to assume that Werner hasn't given me hell. Of course he has. The guy nearly gave me a heart attack against Southampton. I mean, for God's sake. But still, he kept trying until he scored. What more do we want from a player? Seriously. We need our players to want to be there and to keep trying despite their shortcomings. That is the most important thing. And if you had a player who didn't want to be there, but played well, just for the sake of it, you wouldn't love him as much. And I think the point of all the criticism Werner gets from the fans is that people actually do care. They just express it negatively, for the most part. All I'm saying is, there's a future for this boy at the club, and there's so much more potential. He's still 26. He's still very young. He has so much more potential. He's performed on, bigger occasions. His game against Madrid was it was cathartic for him and for us. It means that there's more to come from him. And by extension, there should be more to come from us in order to support him so that he gets there. And that's how I'm going to end this video. If you like this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. The links to our social media accounts are in the description below, including the links to our Arabic Facebook page, where we post all of our Arabic content. It's the only page we have on there. And a link to our Arabic YouTube channel as well. If you agree or disagree with anything I've said, please let me know in the comments below. I genuinely encourage social discourse on this channel. And that's it for now. I will see you next time the whistle blows. Cheers, everyone. Thank you for watching, and have a good night.